Thank you for making the time. My name is Motlokwe. I'm the coordinator of these sessions. We call this initiative Online Bootcamp with Motlokwe, and today is our 12th talking about project management. And I'm quite excited and feel honored to be joined by our guests. Our guests, they've been in the industry for some time, and project management is their field of expertise, and we're hoping to really get a lot from them. And this field of project management is a growing and is a matured and still growing field, but also in contrary, in practice and also theoretically, we are told that most of the projects still keep failing, right? Although the field is matured, but the project, either being technology project or other fields, generally the projects are failing. Hence, we thought that I think it's key for us to have the session where we're going to, enlighten each other around what are the issues with regard to the project. And I understand we're having a couple of people from different fields, from different industries, and also, of course, the students. So this session, we are also going to paint a picture for those people who are students and then want to pursue the career in the project management, or there are those of us who are in the different fields and then we need to switch to project management. And of course, there are some of our friends who are still finding their way in the industry, maybe being in terms of an internship, or people who are still looking for the opportunity. And I'm hoping by the end of this session today, one will be in a position now to know from here where to. I'm excited to introduce you Homozo Mohotu. She's one of our guests. She's a senior project manager with more than 13 years of experience. She worked across different sectors like financials, public, and telcos. And indeed, she's running a couple of projects across the continent. And also, I'm excited to introduce Augustine Mutagihwa, right? He's our brother from Tanzania. She's joining us from Tanzania at the moment in the city of Dar es Salaam. We are quite excited to have him here. He has been also in the environment for quite some time, more than 18 years, and he worked on IT and non-IT project. At the moment, he's working for one of the banking institution in Tanzania. And so without wasting of any time, I'd like to welcome Homozo to take us through the basics and fundamentals of project management. And then indeed, if you have a question, take over from here.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope all is well. Let me enable my camera for like a couple of seconds so that you guys can see who you are talking to or who will be leading you through the discussion today.
You see the background there. I think you are in the moon or something there, yeah?
Yes, I'm in Spain. We did computer science together at University of Limpopo. I think that's the only thing that you missed out on your introduction of me. And thank you so very much for affording us this opportunity to come and share our knowledge with the rest of the people. I'm really, really honored to be here today. So while Motlokwe is trying to share on his side, I will be covering some aspects in my talk today. So the importance of adopting and using proper project management in projects, the role of a project management office, the role of a project manager, and an understanding of project management fundamentals, which will cover the project manager, well, the role that the project manager plays as a leader, scope management. So as I was saying, so I will be covering this in my talk today. So the importance of adopting and using proper project management in projects, the role of a project management office, and understanding of project management fundamentals, which will cover the role the project manager plays as a leader, scope management, project planning, importance of communication and stakeholder management, in any other aspects that you guys would like us to cover if I didn't cover. Firstly, we'll cover the question, what is a project So according to the project management book of knowledge, the PMBOK guide, project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product or a service. It is unique. It is a unique process comprising of sets of coordinated and controlled activities. So underline coordinated and underline controlled activities, which has a start and an end date, and it is usually undertaken to achieve a specific objective. A project has to conform to specific customer requirements, including the constraints of time, cost, resources, and quality. So a project therefore has a scope, a planned set of activities. It is temporary in that it has a start date and an end date. And it also unique in a sense that the environment is different. The design of a project is different. The location is usually different. So that's why we're saying it is unique. Every project has cost allocated to it, and it has to meet a certain quality. So after a project has been delivered, you need to be able to do project reviews to check that, you know, when you're doing that, you are inspecting and auditing to ensure that the quality of the project is what was signed up initially when you kicked off the project with the customer. And it has resources, constraints that I spoke about earlier. And so what is project management? PMBOK defines project management as the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. In essence, the project management is the planning, scheduling, and controlling of project activities to meet the project objectives. Importance of project management. Using or adopting project management processes, tools, and techniques. The organization puts itself on a sound foundation to achieve its goals in a more effective and efficient way. Why I say that a project, like I said, it's undertaken to meet business objectives. The project management enables the stakeholders. So stakeholders, we're talking about the people that have undertaken that project. So the division within an organization, project owners, you will have any other stakeholders within an organization that are impacted or affected by the project, managers or project resources that are also impacted by this project. So you need to be able to meet those business objectives. You need to be able to deliver the right products at the right time and use resources optimally. So project management enables you to be able to meet those objectives. In the absence of project management, we usually have projects that are dragging, and because there's no control, so you miss deadlines, you find yourself having cost overruns, and you have poor quality. And when you have poor quality, it means you have to rework. And when you rework, it means more money, more resources, more time, and it's wasteful expenditure. Okay, I've already covered this. So a project is a plan undertaken, and a project manager is usually the one who will cause things to happen. So project management is causing a plan undertaking to happen, in short. If you have questions, please put them on a chat. Right. I've already covered this. Why is it repeating? Oh, the role of a project manager. So a project manager is a person who is a central point of contact for all of the stakeholders, all of the project stakeholders. So in essence, the buck starts and ends with you. You are the person that has the vested interest in the success of a project. You are the one that controls everything and the one who pulls things together. Resource management is done by project manager. Project planning, project coordinating of deliverables, the management of costs, the management of time, the schedule, risk, and quality of a project is being managed by a project manager. So you pull things together. And usually a project manager is assigned in most organizations, a project manager is assigned during a project initiation. When I say a project initiation, let's say there's a certain product that the product manager wants to solve a certain problem, or to introduce a new product in the market. There will be requirements gathering during that time. So the product manager will be telling the pre-sales team or the sales team what is it that they want, and they would sit down and put down the requirements. Usually the project manager doesn't get involved during that stage. The project manager gets involved when the project charter or the statement of work has been signed off and the product requirements are already agreed upon with the product manager. But nowadays, the project manager gets involved early in the stage during the pre-sales. But in other organizations, they wait up until the project charter is signed off. So the project manager then gets assigned once the project charter has been signed, and it is your responsibility as a project manager to ensure that you have the right people with the right skills for the project. So the resource requirements, resources from material, from people, you are the one that needs to ensure that those people, those material are assigned and they are right for that particular project. You are the one that's going to be able to sit down with your team and plan the work, because you're not the subject matter expert. The resources that are going to be leading the project are the subject matter expert. So you will sit down with them and ensure that planning is done accurately and you have a work breakdown structure. Once you have your work breakdown structure, then you are able to sit down and say, who do I need to assign this to? So you have your logical sequence. Your logical sequence meaning this is what you need to do before the next task or the next deliverable can be undertaken. So you need to ensure that you have the resources, who you will assign to that task, how long it's going to take for that person to conclude that task, and how much it's going to cost for that person to conclude that task. So you are the central point of contact, and you are the one that has to ensure that the project is a success, because you are the one that's accountable and that's responsible. If stakeholders come, they don't ask you resources, they ask you. So you need to be able to then coordinate everything from communication with all of the stakeholders, and you need to be able to communicate with different stakeholders, from EXCO to the project sponsors, project owners, to the project team, to everyone else that's involved in a project. So that's why I'm saying the buck starts with you and the buck ends with you. So I've already covered this. So a good project manager takes ownership of the whole project. You have to be very, very proactive and not reactive. And how do you do that? You during the project planning, there's a project plan that you agree upon with your project team, and you give it to your project owners and the project sponsors, and it's baselined. It is the single point of truth, and that's what you will use to measure performance and to measure quality as you move along the project phases. So you need to be proactive and not to architect from completing the work that they said they're going to be doing. And is there a risk? Is there an issue that you as a project manager need to deal with right there and there before it becomes before it affects or it impacts your project negatively? You need to be able to adequately manage your plans. You need to be authoritative. You need to be very decisive, and you need to be a good communicator, because you'll be communicating with everybody across, from the project management office to the EXCO, your team members, your customers, your suppliers, end users, and everybody that's affected by that project. And you need to be able to lead by example. You need to be a motivator, because sometimes you find that your team members are not motivated. So you need to be an empathetic leader. You need to understand, most of the time I befriend the people that I work with, because if I befriend you, I know what's happening in your life, then if things come, they're not a surprise to me. And you need to be able to delegate. Most of the project managers don't delegate. They like to be hands-on, especially technical project managers. They like to be hands-on and they don't like to delegate. And that's where you always find issues, because you didn't define your roles clearly, and you are interfering even where you're not supposed to be interfering. Right, we're done with the project manager role. Project management office. Project management office it's one of those things that most organizations think it's not so important, but it is very, very important if you have it and you use it. It is an organization's secret weapon to success and business growth. Project management office can be used as a supportive, organization or business unit. And at the end of the day, we are just there to, to help organization reach their goals quicker and deliver strategic results with more certainty of great outcome. When I say more certainty of great outcome, I mean most projects, like I mentioned earlier on, they fail if there's no management of it. You end up having cost overruns, projects are delayed. So your project management office is there as a backbone of a successful project management approach in an organization, and it is your secret weapon to success. And it exists to serve the business, so it should be used as a strategic partner. And most of the organizations don't see the benefits of the project management office, but there are many. You have things delivered in an effective and efficient manner, and you know that success is guaranteed. So the benefits of a project management office: project management office ensures that there is governance. The right people are assigned to the right projects, decisions are taken by the right people based on the right information that has been provided, and the accountability levels are done in the project management office. So project management office becomes the single point of reporting, single point of delivery. That's what I mean when I say that it ensures that the right people are assigned to the right projects. And in project management office, you have transparency. You become the single point of truth, a single point of contact, and project management office will provide you with the relevant and accurate information as a stakeholder, rather than you speak to developers or you speak to testers or architects in a project. You have a project manager who is from the project management office, whom you can be able to get that information from. And there is reusability. When I say reusability, I mean the project management office normally shares knowledge, and we as project managers don't have to reinvent the wheel, because project management office has got templates, it has processes, it has methodologies provided that we follow in order to be able to deliver the projects successfully and effectively. There's delivery support, there's traceability. When I say traceability, I mean documents, management, project history. Those things are provided and stored by the project management office. So steps in managing projects, we have ways that we run projects. I spoke earlier on about the project initiation. So usually during a project, when a project starts, there's the initiation. That's where the project or the problem that the project is undertaken for is being defined. So those are the requirements. You'll sit down with your stakeholders to define the requirements. And usually, like I said, it's done by the pre-sales team. And once that is done, the people will then develop solution options. So the requirements, is this what the customer wants? If that's what the customer wants, then the project scope of work is signed, or a project charter is signed, and then a project manager is allocated. Then the project manager can sit with the team to do the project plan, and you execute the plan. When you say you execute the plan, you have already the work breakdown structures and activities in a project that you then will follow to execute the project. You know who needs to do what, when, at what time, and what is dependent on what, and what needs to be completed 100% before which task can start. And you can be able to do your monitoring So you use the baseline plan that you develop when you're doing your project plan to ensure that what was agreed upon during planning is not deviating. And the project plan, or even monitoring progress, it helps you to track progress, check if you are still on track, and if you're not on track, how the plan can be modified to track and reflect the new realities. That is why you need to be able to sit and do project control, monitoring and control, and not leave it up until the project is completed to do your audits or to do your inspection. Then you have the close of a project. During the close of a project, that's where you now look at the project objectives, the requirements that were taken when you were defining the problem and developing the solutions, and you match it with what now has been delivered and whether it meets the customer requirements. And if it does, the customer has to sign off and say, yes, you can close the project, and then you can archive and come up with knowledge knowledge sharing. Yes. What worked, what didn't work. I don't know what it's called. So the what worked and what didn't work, so that next time when you undertake a similar project, then you have a reference. You have a reference point. Motlokwe, I don't know if I should cover this. I think I'll cover this if during the questions, the risk part, the monitoring I've already done, so I don't have to cover it. So the risk management processes and all, I'll cover during the Q&A session. So I think I am done unless there's any other clarity that's required from the floor.
Please, I think Homoso laid the foundation for us in terms of explaining to us what is project management, right? And that was our main aim of the first phase of this. And then I want us now to, have a discussion. That's where we are going to also involve our next guest, Mr. Augustine. I've mentioned he's joining us from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. He has been in the industry for quite some time, 18 years or so, and he's currently also pursuing his PhD in project management. So this project management is his area of expertise. He's also having two master's degrees. One is got from the United States of America, and other one is got from his own country, from the University of Dar es Salaam. So welcome also, Mr. Augustine. I'm hoping you can hear us clearly from your side. Welcome. Just also maybe just introduce yourself, if maybe I might have missed something.
Yes, thank you, Motlokwe, my brother, and my sister Komoso. Thank you for good presentation, and thank you for inviting me and having me. Yes, I'm resigning in Dar es Salaam. I think you put all my biography correct, so I think we can move on. Just to add on that, I'm welcoming to answer any questions. My apology if my accent won't be very good. If I mix with the Swahili, don't worry. No, I'm kidding. But I'll be ready to participate in this forum. Thank you, Brother Motlokwe.
Okay, great. Thank you. What I want us to focus on, Homoso paint the picture around what is the project management. Maybe I'll just also start with you, Augustine. What is the difference between project management, program management, and portfolio management? I hope majority of us would like to know that difference so that we can able to distinguish between the two.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think I'm not muted. Thank you, Motlokwe. Our first speaker, I think, he put very correct, and I'm going to put a very simple language. The difference between the projects, the program, and the portfolio. When you say the project is a single project, it can be more than 2 projects, but is managed in different scenarios. But the moment you have more than 2 projects, and they're supposed to go concurrently, and these 2 projects, at the end of the day, they are going to be landing on the calling the program. So the program It can be learning at the same time. It can be extending one project connected to another. But the program is the combination of more than one project. But when you talk about portfolio, then it is the big picture. I will give you an example from my side, the way I see it. I look at the portfolio of the IT and the non-IT projects. So I'll take an example like a construction project. We have a portfolio of what we call the construction project in one of the bank in Tanzania. So within the portfolio of project management, you have got different programs. You have got revamping of branch networks. You have got renovation and establishing the new branch networks, different programs. But within the revamping program, then you have got smaller projects, like maybe you want to revamp the branch, the infrastructure, or you want to revamp on the painting of these branches, or changing the floor tiles, or change the ceiling tiles. It depends on the nature of the kind of particular project. But the entire, so the portfolio is the big picture, which has a combination of the program as well as the project. So it's a portfolio. It's a big one, which we talk about. The investment is the total investment of the particular company, which undergo to depending on the nature on that particular area that you are intending to. I hope I've answered, and maybe if there's some more clarification needed, then.
Okay, great, thank you. Yes, I think you have clearly articulated the difference, and I'll also invite the colleagues to, the friends to write the question. Maybe before I can even go further with my question from my side, there's a question from Frida. What happens if project is planned and the risks are identified, but for some reason there are risks that were not included in the project, and say you are working on the tight budget? So this is a question from Frida. She's asking about the risks that are identified after the project has commenced. And you said that you are also working on the tight budget. So this question was allocated to Homozo. And of course, Augustine, you may add on top of what Homozo might able to say here. Homozo, did you get the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Frida, for the question. So this happens a lot, where you find that when you are sitting down with your team to, what do you call it, to set and identify and quantify the risks that the project might face, and the probabilities and the impact of those risks on a project, and what the mitigation strategies would be. You'd find that there are those risks that, what happens when a project is planned and risks are identified? But, okay. So yes, so you quantify them, and then you have risks mitigation for each and every one of those. Then one of the risks does happen for some reason, like you're saying. Usually what you would need to do again is to go back to the drawing board. When I say going back to the drawing board, you need to check that risk. Is it a scope creep? Does it affect, is scope creep? Obviously, if it's scope creep, it's going to affect everything else. It affects your cost, it will affect your resources, it will affect your budget. Regardless of the fact that you have a tight budget, you need to go back and quantify that risk and ensure that the budget, whether it will affect the budget or not. And if it affects the budget, you need to still do what we call a project change request to include that change into the scope. And the customer has to sign it, whether it is a R0 or $0 risk impact scope change. And you have to have negotiation skills. If the customer doesn't want to give you more budget, then something has to give. You need to now sit down and decrease the scope so that you meet whatever based on the budget that you have been given. So every time there's a risk that happens, you need to be able to then sit down and quantify what the impact of that risk is on scope, on cost, on resources, on quality, and then do a project change request if any of those is affected. And then you go back to the customer, and the customer has to sign off, because if the customer doesn't sign off, you are the one then that will need to bear the cost. I see asking the question on who bears the cost, the client or the project team can't bear the costs. The customer has to bear the costs if the risk is happening because of a customer. If it is you as a delivery team, then you have your organization has to bear the costs, and then it becomes that thing of you have to get approvals from the project management office upwards and all of those. So yeah, I don't know, Justin, do you want to add anything there?
Yes, thank you. The term risky will never be eliminated when it comes to project management. Every project have got a risk. And in one of the, I don't know whether it's 10 or 11 knowledge areas in PM book, one of it is risk management. It's a very big topic about that one. And the good project manager, as Sister Komso said, is the good project manager is the one who can easily identify proactively the risk involved. One of the tools that the project manager used when they manage the project, there's one we call the RAID rock. The RAID rock has got risk issues and the action issues, dependencies. So the project manager will need to have what we call the risk register, where he put all the risk register and documented this risk on the time when it was raised, who was raised it, what is the description of data risk, who is on data risk, who is accountable, who is responsible for data risk, when are we trying, when can we mitigate the risk. So going back to the question from one of the person who asked this question, that as a project manager, the risk is very important to manage. If you cannot manage the risk, then the project becomes very difficult for you. So you better proactively understand what are the risks coming from. How am I going to mitigate? If that risk is impacting your project, that's going to impact your project, you better take action. What Komso said, then raise what we call the change request. You need to go back and engage the stakeholders and try to do the decision. Remember, the project manager, most of the organization, you report to the project steering committee who have the governance of that particular project, who is including the sponsor. So the risk is very important, is very quite wide, and it has to be taken into account when you manage the project. I think that's what I had to add. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think what I'm hearing is that the risk is activities. That risk assessment is not one-off activity. It's something that needs to happen throughout.
It's continuous.
The continuous. Thank you. So I think maybe we can proceed here. I wanted also just to say what are the other challenges that of being project manager or of project management? What are the challenges? Maybe Augustine, maybe if you can just mention a few, and I'll also give you a Komodo opportunity to mention others. So we just want to get that understanding. Now we know what project management is, and then but what are really the key challenges that project manager or portfolio manager for that matter are experiencing on a daily basis?
Okay, am I muted? Sorry. Okay, I'm muted. Okay. Yeah, there are challenges. As a project manager, there are a lot of challenges that you go through. One of the things that I've came across when you are managing a project, the challenge of the communication between the stakeholders, where you find, I will pick one example, as I was managing one of the projects where my employer, the headquarters is in South Africa, and I'm supposed to communicate with the head office in South Africa, Johannesburg, and the communication become very difficult. So one of the challenges become big communications. But budget issues, sometimes the sponsor may budget the particular amount of money to cover the project, but at the end of the day, it does not suffice. In my experience, there's been a lot of budget issues when it comes to these projects. Sometimes when you do the cost estimate, we thought maybe you have covered each and everything. But those are the things. But lack of accountability is one of the challenges the project manager have. Remember, the project manager is the CEO of that particular project. I always tell my project manager that you are a CEO of that particular project. The lack of accountability of project teams can hinder this project to be difficult. But also there is resource availability. As part of my experience, you find that the project manager, you may not have the permanent staff to do particular project. It depends on other team. So when it comes that each department does like to release these resources to do this project, then it becomes a challenge to it. Unrealistic deadline. There's sometimes the PMO, the project sponsor or the organization, when the project manager has put a project charter and they put deadline that they wanted to deliver, sometimes these timelines are not realistic. There is a time where I've been asked to deliver, to build a branch in 1 month. There is no way in the construction you can deliver one branch. If you are changing the core banking, you cannot change the core banking for those who know in the bank, especially for the big bank, in 1 month. So sometimes the stakeholders have a lot of stuff that they want us to accomplish in short time. Stakeholders engagement, I think Sister Komaso mentioned a little bit. To manage stakeholders is very challenging to project managers, especially when the people there, everybody has got his own requirements or needs, but also inadequate of the skills of the project team members. Sometimes you have the project teams who are not having the skill that is required. If you are doing an IT project, maybe you need a developer, you need somebody coming to test in the UAT. Sometimes he doesn't know what he's supposed to test because the test cases are not developed very correctly. So there are a lot of challenges maybe to end up here. Maybe Komoso has some more, but those are the kind that I can mention very quick. Thanks.
Okay, great. Yes, I think we've mentioned a few. Yeah, if maybe there's an additional one, otherwise we will proceed. Yeah, Komoso?
So I was going to talk about the issue of politics. So a whole lot of projects has got politics. So when I say politics, you'd find that you are rolling out a project for a project sponsor for a certain business unit. And that project is being undertaken in silos and other people don't even know about it, or they are not for the project. And all they ever do when they come to meetings is to come and derail and ensure that the success of the project, the project fails. So you need to, as a project manager, be able to deal with politics. The issue of scope. Scope creep comes in all the time. Scope increases all the time. And as a project manager, you need to be able to deal with that in a proper manner, because that's why when you start off the project, it's very, very important for you to be able to sit down with the customer core deliverable team. You need to be able to sit with your deliverable team. You guys sit down and be able to then tell the customer, this is what you signed up for. So we are sitting down and quantifying the requirements. Is there any other thing? If there's any other thing, then that's a project, that's a scope creep. And it needs, again, you need to go back to the circle. You need to see, okay, if I include this new requirement into the scope, what is the impact to my costs, to my resources, to the timeline? Because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, and the customer will say, I spoke to you about this during the project initiation, and you said, okay, you never came back to me to tell me what the impact is and how much it's going to cost you to include this requirement, this new requirement into the scope. And one of the issues that we also face is adoption. So we will be given engagements or projects to roll out. You as a project manager are tasked to ensure that even after the project is completed, there's adoption even before you hand over to the operations team. So we always have adoption issues. When I say adoption issues, is people don't invite all of the people that will be impacted by the project, whether in a right way or in not a right way, even the end users. So in silos in order to eliminate the adoption issues and the politics that I spoke of earlier on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for, I think that is clearly articulated. But I just want to move to another point, right? There are people, most of us here, we are students, we're in an industry, we need to come to, to be part of the project management. So we are answering, how do we become project manager? For example, maybe from your side, Augustine, you can just explain to us, what do you think as something, as maybe from the student side, what do you do for one to be project manager?
Okay, thanks for this good question. Just to highlight one thing, one of the participants to understand, project management is one of the demanding skills or demanding opportunities that the team should think about it. This goes back to 2008 when I've done with my grad schools and in other countries, and I was planning to come back home, and I was thinking, what should I do? And I've done with my grad, and I need to go back to my family. I was not planning to stay there for a long time. So now I was thinking, what should I do? And by then we had a school seminar where this PMI team come to introduce the project management for that time. And now where my ambition comes that I need to be a project manager. If you look on the article that has been given by PMI book, one of the research I can't remember, they are telling that 22 millions of the jobs is going to be opened by 2027. So the demanding of project manager is very, very, very high. And I'm not saying they're paying me very good. I know even commerce may say she's not paid very good, but if you look on the payment for the project manager, is very demanding. So how do we get to be project manager? The good things, and there's the bad things. Now we start with the good things. The project manager, you don't have to have a specific degree, if I can say from my experience, because I did my undergraduate in environmental science, I did economics. I just came to do project management in 2013, where I've already been a project manager for almost like 8 years. So you have to have elementary education, I can say, basic degree, advanced diploma. I don't know, in South Africa, you have that category, advanced diploma. But you needed to think about certification, because one of the most important things to be a project manager, you need to have a certification. There is Project Management Institute, they offer different certification. For me, I started as a certified associate in project management, CAPM. Then I sent again into PMP. But when you talk about project in controlled environment, Prince 2, they've got project management for beginners, there are Prince 2 practitioners, and so forth. So to cut in short, you need to have, of course, you need to be in school, you need to know how to write and read, you need to have a basic education. I would say college education is very important, but you need to start building your skills in management. You need to start your skills in planning. You need to start to build your skills in the communication. If you ask me, a very good project manager is the one who communicates, is the one who manage, and is the one who plan. Then think about certification. I think certification has got a wider topic. Maybe next time we can give that a knowledge on how to certificate. But those are the areas that I can think very quick. How do you become project manager? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And then maybe on the same question to you, Khomotso, do you need to be extrovert to be a good manager, project manager?
So I'm an ambivert, right? I'm an ambivert. So most of the time, introverts, okay, so Augustine was saying that for you to be able to be a good project manager, you need to be a good communicator. You need to have sound judgment. You need to be a motivator. You need to be diplomatic. You need to be authoritative and not an authoritarian. You need to be able to, like, you need to lead. You are the CEO of the project. So if you don't know how to speak to people and you are scared and you are shy, how are you going to be able to communicate? Because a good project manager needs to communicate 80% of the time. That's what you do. You communicate with all sorts of people. So if you are scared of people, how are you going to be able to communicate? How are you going to be able to lead steering committees? How are you going to be able to present to different stakeholders if you are scared? So I'm an ambivert, a mixture of an extrovert and introvert. When it comes to me as a project manager leading, I know that I need to be a good leader, and what does a good leader need to look like, or what does a good leader need to do? And that side does take over. So I don't know, and I don't think, I've seen a lot of business analysts that are introverts. So because a business analyst work hand in hand with a project manager, there was a question that was being asked about the difference between an analyst and a project manager. And I think somebody answered it and said they are the analysts themselves. So normally the introverts, I've worked with introverts who are business analysts. They gather requirements from the customer, they analyze, they give documents, and that's about it. And a project manager will be the one then that will be doing the talking, that will be managing the project, that will be reporting and all of that. So I don't think you can be able to be a project manager if you're an introvert, unless you are authoritative, you can be able to communicate, you can stand your ground, because normally you are bulldozed by your team members. I get bulldozed by the resources that I work with. Like I said, I work with men. They try all of the time to try and bulldoze me, and you need to be able to fight back in a nice way and be authoritative and say, hey, I run the show, you don't run the show. So
okay,
yeah.
Great. Yeah, so I think someone here, on the other hand, and I'm a BA and prefer analysis to project. Yes, I think it's just mentioning some of the things that we are talking about.
Yeah.
Other thing that I wanted to check, right? You have a specialization within the project management. Komuto?
When you say specialization,
yeah,
what do
so
you mean?
meaning, for example, having IT, right? IT, I know in IT,
Yeah.
we have a networks, we have databases, we have this. When I'm inside project management, right? Can I specialize in some specific field within project management, or how does it work? Or can you manage any project?
So project management cuts across all the industries, right? Because the foundations, the processes, the tools and techniques, they are the same. So an IT project manager, if like myself, I started as a Java developer, and then I moved into system administration, and that's where I developed the love for project management, because we were working in a team that didn't have a manager, didn't have anybody coordinating anything, and I just decided to step in and say, I'll do dual role, I'll do junior project management and still do system administration and be a tester on the other hand, which is what I was being paid for. So there are different, you as a project manager, you can work in any industry, but it's very, very important to have a technical background of what you're working in. I don't think as an IT project manager, I can be able to manage, let's say, engineering projects. Although with time, if I start learning, then I can be able to, but you don't have to really specialize for you to be a project manager. Like Augustine said, you need to have an undergraduate degree or diploma in something for you then to have a stepping stone into the project management field. Yes, most of the companies, what they do is you'll find that you have an infrastructure project manager, you have a network project manager, you have security project manager, you have software development project manager, and then you'll have an overall project manager who coordinates all of these project managers, and that's where program management or senior project management comes in. I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So then, so the question now is, if I'm a student, so you're saying I don't really have to go and specialize with something before I can branch to project management. I can just, as a graduate, say I want to be project manager, and then do certification. That should be sufficient enough. I don't have to go elsewhere and specialize with something before I can go back to the project manager. I can just start as a pure project manager from the beginning.
No, unless you become an intern or unless you start off as a project administrator. So like I said, for me, what I started with was being a junior project manager or a project coordinator in my department. And that's why I developed the love for project management. And then from there, I moved over to another company on a 3-month contract as a project coordinator. Then within 3 months, I was, I was already excelling, and I moved into the project management space on a full-time basis, and there were interns there. So remember, in most of the companies, they will take interns, let's say IT, they will take interns and they will do rotation. When I say rotation, today you are here, you are doing technical work. Tomorrow they place you for 6 weeks or for 10 weeks within the project management space. Then you are doing this other thing, and then you have to choose at the end of the day where your love is. But you have to have an undergraduate degree for you to be able to venture into a project management role.
Okay.
So
okay. Thanks. Yeah.
I did computer science, and I'm in an IT industry. it was easier for me to move into IT project management, although I've done many other projects that are outside IT.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, I think also going back to the issue of extrovert and introvert, I saw Sunny. Yeah, Sunny said that. I think his point is that I think it really depends. You know, there are those who are introvert and then they are good, become good project managers. There are those who are extrovert. The same applies. So it's really, you know, knowing. Yes, it really depends. You know, knowing your strength and then able to apply that, right? So
yeah, I like the fact that he says you do have to get out of yourself and do what you are required to do.
So I think there was a question from Frida. She was saying, what happened if the funds for the project ran out because of unforeseen circumstances? Can you also take that, Komoto? So in the case where maybe you are running out of budget for the project, what normally do you do then?
So you cannot not run out of budget without you knowing upfront. And that is where great project planning comes from, because when you are sitting down and doing a project plan, you are sitting and quantifying what are your deliverables, how long it will take, what resources do you need for that deliverable, and how much it's going to cost you. Because let's say you are doing an IT project and you need a project manager, you need an architect, you need a senior consultant, you need a tester, you need all of that. You already know the cost rates of all of these people, and you know that specific task is going to take you to, you know, it's going to cost you this much for the specific task. And you are giving a certain budget. During the planning, you should be able to know that that cost is enough or it's not sufficient. And if it's not sufficient, that's where you need to go back to the steering committee, like Augustine said earlier on, to ask for more budget. You need to be proactive and not wait for the last moment. And that's where monitoring and controlling comes in, because as you move amongst phases, so initiation, you know whoever. During execution, you know whoever. During testing or monitoring and controlling, you need whoever. During planning, so, and you have costs associated to those. So that's why the baselining becomes very important, because you can't run out of a budget and you didn't know about it from the word go.
So, Khomoso, can I please jump in just a little bit? Maybe yes, if I put it this way. Say you have a project, I'll just paint a picture that will make sense to all of us. We are running a project where we have to build a mall in the next 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. And then along the line, maybe one of our major raw materials that we're using is steel, right? Mm-hmm. Then along the line, you find that the price of steel is shooting up more than what we had expected, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it shoots up by 80%. Even if it's not the price of steel, maybe the price of petrol influences whatever that we're doing. Mm-hmm. Maybe 3 or 4 times what we had budgeted. Okay. Then what?
I get you.
Yes.
I get you. So
yes. Yeah. So can I chip in? Can I chip in, friends? I think we are running out of time, right? Just be brief, because I think we are having problem with our license. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna be brief. So Augustine, correct me if I'm wrong. So you when you are planning a project, there's always management reserve that you have to plan for, and that's planned for things like those. And for you to be able to use management reserve, you need to be able to then motivate as to why the prices have shot, and then it can be approved. So in that instance, you will be able to use the management reserve that was put aside during your project initiation and risk planning.
Okay. So within project management, now we're talking about fourth industrial revolution and all that, right? How does this future trends affect project management? This thing of fourth industrial revolution, how does it really affect this profession of project management in the future? Or how do you see that affecting project management field in the future? Augustine?
Thank you, Motlokwe. Because of the times, let me put a very short one. to me, if you ask me, the fourth industrial revolution is an opportunity for the project managers. And I'm just comparing it with this COVID-19, where you see that despite of having COVID-19, the construction team, the IT team, whatever, they will still work at home because of the technologies. But the demanding of project manager now will move from what we call the traditional project managers, the face-to-face meetings and all kind of stuff, and it's going to move to more on the virtual project team. When I talk about the virtual project team, I'll be sitting in Dar es Salaam, and I can still manage the project in India. I can still manage the project in South Africa. For the bank which I've worked in Standard Bank, there are a lot of projects that I've managed, one in Tanzania, and it's happened in on the street in South Africa. So the industrial revolution bring the new technology, bring the new stuff. As the project managers, we need to think about it on how are we going to enhance our capabilities to manage the team outside of your geographical location. So it's going to be fun, but I can tell you we are going to get more opportunities as we move on, because at the end of the day, the PM is needed. There's no any business expansion growth, as Komoso said, that will go without project managers. Thank you. I think I should end up there.
Okay, great. And then Khomotso, I think Agustino already touched on it. We wanted to check what is the impact of this remote working on project management or project managers. Maybe briefly.
So like Augustine said, we need to move away from the traditional way of doing things and go digital. Digital transformation is here, and we need to be able to incorporate technology and identify superior strategic and tactical methods and maximizing human well-being. And we need to start embracing agile principle across all the departments within an organization. So for me, there hasn't been any impact because I'm able to work anywhere in the world for as long as I've got internet, I've got my phone on, and I've got access to emails, and I've got access to VPN. I manage engagements in Dubai, across Africa, and it's like I'm there. But the issue is you need to be able to have intellectual capacity, because, intellectual capacity, and you need to be able to be agile. And we need to embrace this digital transformation thing.
Okay, thank you. Friends, my apologies to be rushing here. I think we left with 2 minutes according to the record here. And I just wanted to thank everyone who joined, and we will, I think, have another session next year where we're going to really explore more. Agustin talked about that there is an element of certification, there is a Prince 2, there's a PM Vogue, there are other project management standards that are out there, and then we like to explore on them. So I think we will arrange another session to really go deeper into this, and even invite people like Semi here. He is the person who seems to be in the environment, so that we can really broaden this space, so that the people like Gosinati, who is still a student, can have an understanding in terms of what they really need to do from their side, right? So maybe the last parting word from you, friends, just quickly.
Sorry?
The parting word from your side.
Okay, so project management is a very exciting role, guys. And like Augustine said, it is the new shebang. Companies can't do without project management office. So align yourself with this profession. You can get our details, emails, or whatever from Motlokwe. And if you would like to have a separate conversation with myself and see, whether you want to change your career and move into project management, how can that go? And one can be able to coach you and nudge you a little bit into this profession. So yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. I will put this on the YouTube, and colleagues, you will find it. You will find the video in there.